Hi, thank you for clicking on the video, and I hope everyone is doing really well. Bulimia, an emotional disorder involving distortion of body image and obsessive desire to lose weight, in which bouts of extreme overeating are followed by depression and self-induced vomiting, purging, or fasting. An eating disorder in which a large quantity of food is consumed in a short period of time, often followed by feelings of guilt or shame. I find it quite interesting that there is more information, more articles, more movies, more talk about anorexia than bulimia, even though more people suffer from bulimia than anorexia. I believe that there is a definitive connection between bulimia and binge eating disorder. Bulimia contains binge eating disorder, but it takes it one step further because it holds the punishment for your binging. For almost 6 years of my life, I struggled with bulimia. It was a daily occurrence, sometimes multiple times per day. Eventually, I was able to wean myself off of throwing up. Bulimia is gross. I don't think anyone wakes up one day and decides, hey, today I'm going to eat a massive amount of food and then force myself to throw up. I don't think that's on anyone's to-do list. I think bulimia creeps up on people and is a surprise. I mean, it was a surprise to me. Bulimia was something that I just never thought I would do because it was so gross and embarrassing, and why would I ever inflict that on myself? And then one day, the desperation was so great that it was my only solution. People don't seem to want to talk about how it feels, other than feeling totally gross. It's overwhelming, and there's a severe feeling of being out of control. It's quite ironic, seeing as the whole binge purge cycle is a means to feel in control or feel like you're gaining control while simultaneously being completely out of control. There is massive amount of fear around this disorder, always feeling afraid of the disorder, afraid of what it's doing to you, afraid of what it feels like it's making you do, and also the fear that people are gonna find out. And if people find out, it's embarrassing. Throughout the binging part of the disorder, there's a lot of guilt, and post-purge, there is a lot of guilt. It can get so bad that in some cases, and I did experience this on multiple occasions, almost an out-of-body experience. I was so disconnected from myself and my emotions. I felt as though I no longer had physical control over my body, and I separated myself from my body, and I was watching myself go through this horrific ritual of binge purge. Let's do it again. Because I was outside of my body, I couldn't stop it. I couldn't stop myself because I was no longer connected to my body. There is a lot of anxiety. There is feeling ashamed. I mentioned feeling gross. You feel stupid because it seems like such an easy solution. Just don't throw up. Don't make yourself do it. Yet you feel stupid because you're not smart enough to figure out how to do something as simple as not throw up. You feel stuck. You feel trapped. You feel confused. You feel disgusted, and the list goes on and on and on. So that's the negative side of this video, talking about all the horrible things that bulimia is. And now I'm going to talk about the good stuff. There is none. What I am going to talk about is how to start to counter the urge and the actual practice of binging and purging. First of all, no one binges and purges because they enjoy it. There is a deeper underlying issue that needs to be addressed. The binging and the purging is purely a symptom of those underlying issues. It is a way to mask those issues, a way to not have to address or face those issues. So in order to break the disordered cycle, you have to face those issues. You have to face what you truly are feeling. You have to come to terms with what you are feeling. The pattern and the actual act of binging and purging is brought on by something, some emotion. You need to start asking yourself what you are feeling. It's a lot easier to conquer something if you know its name. Once you can put a name or a label on what it is that is eating you inside, you can start to work through it. So figure out what you're feeling, and it's not so important at first to figure out why you're feeling that way, but focus more on how are you going to work through that feeling. You're not going to catch on to your feelings every single time. You're not going to be able to pull yourself outside of that triggering situation every single time. At first, there's a lot of backtracking, falling victim to the disorder, but being aware that slip-ups do happen, and they probably will happen, is going to propel you forward. Relapse does occur, but it's not about dwelling within the fact that it occurred, but reworking through that it occurred, and then figuring out a game plan so that it won't occur again. The main thing afterwards is not to focus on the fact that it did happen, but what am I going to do differently so that it does not happen again? This is not to say seek out relapse, but relapse can be used as a tool to figure out what it is you're feeling before the occurrence, during the occurrence, after the occurrence, and then putting the pieces together to form a picture of this is what I'm struggling with. So because I now know what I'm struggling with, I need to start working out steps to conquer this struggle that is pushing me to do these detrimental behaviors towards my health and my well-being. Try to figure out the emotional cues or situational or occurrences that may have led you to this binge. From there, you can come up with a game plan that you can implement going forward to work through those triggers. If you end up binging and you are able to catch yourself before the purging starts, do something else than purging. But it can't be something that hurts you. You can leave. So if you normally binge and purge in your bedroom, and you've binged, leave your bedroom. If you normally do it in the bathroom, leave the bathroom before the purging starts. Leave whatever environment you're in and just get away, get out. Because our brains actually associate pattern and environment. So if you typically do it in a certain room, your brain associates the act of binging and purging with that room. And so your brain actually is telling you that this is the place where you do this thing. So do that thing because you're in that place. So that's why you want to leave that place and go anywhere else. Just go somewhere else. The other thing is, if you can't leave, find something that you can physically occupy your time and your brain so that your energy is going into focusing on something else rather than focusing on the fact that you just binged, the physical feelings that you're feeling, and you just put your energy into something else. That could be journaling, that could be watching videos, go to sleep. Binging takes a lot of energy, and so you might feel exhausted. So pay attention to that feeling and just lay down. And I know it's hard, but you kind of have to sit in those uncomfortable feelings for a while and then just doze off. If you have a craft or a creative outlet or just something, just occupy your time and your brain power. Work through your emotions. People, places, events, emotions can all trigger an episode, so it's really important to be able to recognize those things. Be held accountable to yourself and to someone else. I know I've said it quite a few times. It's really hard to have to admit that you do this thing, but if you can find someone in your life who is unbelievably supportive and who loves you and wants what's best for you, let them know and ask them if they'll be the person that you admit to, basically confess to that you've done this, and be held accountable. It got to the point I was so embarrassed and upset with myself at how often I had to admit to another person that I was doing this, that it started to put into my mind, I don't want to have to admit that I do this anymore, so I'm not going to do it anymore because I don't want to have to admit it anymore. That gradually grew inside of me to the point where I stopped. Triggering emotions are important to be able to recognize, as well as the emotions caused by an episode. I could go into a detailed list of all the medical and health negative side effects of purging, but if anyone is like me, those warnings and those side effects, like, you probably could care less. I ignored warnings, and I watched a lot of documentaries about eating disorders, and I ignored all of the signs and the symptoms and the side effects and all of it. Even people die obviously from these disorders, and I ignored it because I was so stubborn. Wherever you are in your recovery journey, whatever disorder you are recovering from, whether you are 2 weeks in, 1 week in, 5 years in, haven't even started yet, recovery is possible. Recovery from bulimia can seem impossible sometimes. It is still possible. I haven't had a true episode in a long time, over a year. I'm incredibly proud of myself. The desire sometimes still creeps up at the most random times, and when it catches you off guard and it creeps up, and that feeling of wanting to do this thing is there. It's recognizing that urge is there, that desire is there, and asking the right questions and being honest with yourself and being transparent and aware of the presence of this disorder. And it's gonna creep up on you and sneak into your life when you are least expecting it. Be always a little on guard, and have in your toolkit, the proper game plan and the techniques, what works for you, and figuring out what you're going to do to counter it. So that is my little video on bulimia. It's not a nice topic. It's not a pleasant topic, but it's a topic that needs to be talked about. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you did not enjoy this video, give it a thumbs down. That's cool too. Be sure to subscribe if you are not subscribed already. If you have any video suggestions, comments, questions, anything at all, feel free to leave that in the comment section below. Be sure to follow me on Instagram, and I will see you next time. Bye!